So this is what I used to look like, and as you can see, not great, obviously. And I know a lot of guys out there think that they can't do this sort of thing because they're not good looking enough, or you have to look a certain way in order to do this, and it's just not going to work for me because I'm not at a certain threshold. Or you've been reading too much stuff on the internet, all the black pill stuff and all this pill that, this pill that. The thing is that the reality is that most people can dramatically improve their physical side of things in order to get more sort of value, I guess, in the dating marketplace. That's just the reality, and most people just don't know about it, or they just don't put the effort in, and they'd rather just give up or complain and that sort of thing, really, which is a bit pathetic in a lot of ways, because the thing is, there's so many things that you can do actually to improve the physical side of things. Some of it takes longer, some of it really doesn't take that long at all, and doesn't really take that much effort. But yeah, there's things that you can do. That's what this video is about, really, because too many guys just give up because they have this sort of defeatist mentality where they focused so much on the looks aspect without actually realizing that a lot of the looks aspect stuff can actually genuinely be improved upon. Obviously, there's no denying that looks are massively important when it comes to dating. It always has been, always will be. It's human nature. Obviously, looks matter. Obviously, looks matter a hell of a lot, because ultimately this is dating. And just because you're doing day game doesn't necessarily give you a free pass where, oh yeah, well, because I'm doing day game, looks don't matter anymore. It's all about confidence and social skills. Obviously, confidence, social skills, charisma matter, and they matter a lot. But of course, looks are always going to be a thing. Whether a girl decides to flake on you or not, a lot of it comes down to looks. Whether she decides to give out her number, sometimes it can be down to looks. And of course, if a girl decides to actually stop for you instead of carrying on walking, a lot of it can be down to looks. It's something that you really do want to optimize. And if you're not, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, and you're definitely not putting yourself out there to the maximum potential, really. So yeah, there's a few things you can do, just basic things. I mean, if you want to start off just with the things that you can just switch like really quickly, the first thing would be just fashion, just look presentable. That's something that it's almost like an instant fix in some ways. If you're going out wearing shit clothes, baggy, shit fitting clothing, sort that out. Just have an idea of what looks presentable. I'm no fashion expert by any means, but if you're dressed worse than me, this is why I tell a lot of guys, if you're dressed worse than me, then it's a problem. It's like you shouldn't be dressed worse than me. I'm like the minimum lowest standard, really. And if it's worse than what I wear, then you're definitely shooting yourself in the foot. So yeah, just try and get some clothes that look decent, that look relatively masculine. But the main thing is that they fit relatively well. I know that the whole sort of baggy clothing trend is quite sort of popular nowadays, and the thing with that is that people, obviously, if you're going out around sort of wearing that sort of typical sort of Generation Z sort of 90s style baggy clothing style, obviously that's going to appeal to a certain demographic. I know for myself that particular demographic that would attract is definitely not for me. So you kind of want to sort of dress in a certain way that will appeal to the demographic that you're sort of ideally going for. But I guess for most people that watch this channel and sort of watch my stuff, I guess you're looking for sort of feminine girls, right? Usually sort of foreign girls, Eastern European, Mediterranean, Latina girls, that sort of thing. And they are obviously gonna, because they're quite feminine themselves, they're obviously gonna look for the opposite, which is masculinity. So dressing in a somewhat sort of masculine way is really sort of the ideal, really. The main thing is, like, if you're not really an expert when it comes to fashion, just wear clothes that fit well, really. There's not like a magic thing that that's gonna appeal to everyone, right? But yeah, you want to just wear clothes that just fit relatively well, and try and sort of match colours in a reasonable way as well. Don't sort of go crazy with it. But yeah, it doesn't have to be too complicated. Just it's mainly just stuff that just fits well. It doesn't. That's the main thing. 'Cause, I mean, even when guys do coaching with me, a lot of the time they come and they arrive with just like very sort of baggy, sort of crap clothing. It's like the first thing that they saw when they got out of bed, and it's that sort of vibe which doesn't give the first, the best first impression. So they're kind of like, shooting themselves in the foot a little bit with that. The second thing when it comes to looks is just basic grooming. Just make sure you've got a relatively decent skin routine and things like that. Just shave. Sort out your eyebrows if you need to. Just basic stuff like that. Again, a quick fix. If you've got a monobrow, shave that little bit in the middle. Just basic stuff like that, really. Just little things like that can make a big difference as well. Things like acne, that stuff needs to be sorted out as well, really. I mean, I used to have a lot of bad acne actually myself, and I never really sorted it out. I just kind of sort of outgrew it, really. If you want to get old enough, it sort of goes away. And so you can sort of wait for it. But I'd say, like, if you're in your 20s and you've got pretty bad acne, then it's definitely something you might want to think about getting rid of. There are some things that you can use, such as I believe it's called Roaccutane. Think about that. You probably need to get a prescription from a doctor or something. But yeah, it's potentially worth looking into. Just need to sort of sort yourself out, be presentable, in general, really. The main thing actually, and this is obviously going to take a lot longer, is just losing weight. If you're overweight, lose weight. It's going to make a massive difference in terms of your level of physical attraction. Like, this can't be overstated how important it is. If you are overweight, you shouldn't be overweight, really. I mean, it's okay. I don't want to say it's an easy fix, but it's like the most obvious fix, really, in terms of improving physical appearance. Not only will you make your body more aesthetically pleasing, but also your face as well. Because when you lower your body fat holistically or all around your body, it will literally just wrap the skin around your face a lot better. And that will actually massively increase your facial attractiveness as well. So that's something that you'll notice if you lose weight. It's huge, massive thing. Obviously, it's not a quick fix. It's not an overnight thing. It can potentially take months, but it's 100% worth it. And then, if you want to take the extra step beyond that, then, start going to the gym, lifting weights, resistance training, put on a bit of muscle mass, and again, you'll improve your physical attraction. But that again, that can take months, can take years. But it's worth it, it's 100% worth it. Because obviously, looks matter. It's a big deal. You got to maximize your potential, and if you're not doing that, then, what are you doing? Oh, and get a haircut, get a decent haircut. If in doubt, when it comes to haircuts, keep it simple, short on the sides, a bit longer on top, basic stuff. Just like, this is like the most basic haircut you can possibly get, but it's fine, I don't really me personally, I don't really like to go for anything really that extravagant. Just keep it simple, keep it basic, nothing too fancy. Of course, you can go a little bit more fancy if you want. The best thing you can do is just do a Google image search of a particular haircut that potentially could look good on yourself. Show that to your barber. Be like, right, I want you to do something a bit like this if possible, and just do that. But yeah, try and get yourself a decent haircut. Every so often. Unless you're sort of really growing your hair out, then I'd say every 2 months or so maximum you want to be getting a haircut. That's quite important, I think, because I know a lot of guys, they get a haircut like once every 3-4 months or something. They just sort of let it grow and it just becomes a bit of a fucking mess. It's just not very presentable, really. Just to consider that kind of thing, really. But the thing with the haircut is that it's one of those things that, again, the way you sort of style your hair will appeal to a certain demographic. So, if you're going for that sort of Generation Z Western sort of demographic, then, that sort of broccoli haircut thing might appeal to them. Whereas if you're going for like a high class sort of, Eastern European Russian traditional girl. You know, is she going to be into that? Maybe not. She wants something a bit more sort of masculine, a bit more mature looking, you know. So think about that. Think about, you know, the way you present yourself will attract a certain demographic as well. But yeah, the main point really with this video is that, you know, even if you're starting off in a place which is like really quite shit, as you've seen in the picture that I've shown, you know, there's so much that you can potentially do, you know, to actually improve yourself, you know. There's not really too many excuses, you know. You've got to just sort these things out. You know, if you're not, then yeah, it's a bit of an issue really. And yeah, why wouldn't you? You know, it's dating. Obviously, looks matter. They always have done, always will do. And yeah, you've got to maximize that stuff.
Cheers for watching. If you'd be interested in one-to-one coaching with me, where we'll go out in public and work on your approaching girls, or more generally with your social confidence, please visit my website ed-game.com.